Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content. This morning, the Dolphins started the rebuild. This is smart. It's a three-step process. Number one, they just fired Chris Grier, the GM. Smart. They also announced they're going to keep Mike McDaniel for the rest of the year. Very smart. Don't put an interim guy in who reels off 4 or 5 wins and everybody goes, I'll hire the interim. Okay, don't do that. You know what Miami's got to do next? Go hire Lane Kiffin. Everything about Miami's empty calories. Last night, time of possession, yards, first downs. Miami, as many as Baltimore. And they got blown out. They got no alpha. They got no culture. Mike McDaniel's a great offensive coach. Come on. I'll get to Tua later. Here's why you go hire Lane Kiffin. Number one offense in college football last several years. Half the SEC quarterbacks this year, all that first-round draft quarterbacks, everybody's talking about what a great quarterback draft it's going to be. 4 of the 8 best quarterbacks are from the SEC. Lane recruited them. Lane faced them. Lane's looked at film of them. Nobody knows the SEC quarterbacks better than the current best offensive coach. So you get all the Mike McDaniel innovation, but you get an alpha. He played the position. He's a guy's guy. He's got an attitude. That's what Miami lacks. They got a smart guy in the building. They got no culture. They got nothing. They're flimsy. It's empty calories. Last night, you look at the yards, you look at a lot of the box score, you're like, oh, that must have been a close game. Nah, just all empty calories. And by the way, for college coaches now, it used to be college looked one way, the NFL looked another way. But now, college coaches like Kiffin, they have free agency. It's called the transfer portal. They pay the players. So Lane Kiffin, and Ole Miss doesn't have a great football program. They're good with Kiffin. They've led college football in offense. The NFL is an offensive league. He has been a CEO. Because in the NFL, you want your coach to be a CEO. Everybody's always like, get the GM first, then the coach. Nonsense. Chargers got Harbaugh first. A week later, they hire the GM. Go get Lane Kiffin at the end of the year. Kiffin can keep bouncing around Florida, LSU, Ole Miss. It's college football. Take a big swing, Lane Kiffin. Take a big swing. College coaches like Harbaugh, they are CEOs. They got the transfer portal, the NIL, it's all different now. It used to be college coach. He went to high schools. Belichick now coaches college. You just write a check to get guys. So college and NFL is much more similar in style. This isn't about Tua. And that ship has sailed. They got a clean house. I would move off Tua. I would move off the coach. I would move off the GM. Do not put an interim coach in there. Do not do it, because the guy reels off 5 out of 6 wins, and everybody in Miami is like, oh, my God, that's how the Raiders, Antonio Pierce. You get hot, you win a couple games. It's the substitute teacher rule. Everybody's great to the substitute teacher. That's not what you do. So you want the innovation. What does Miami have? Innovation. Don't lose the innovation. With Lane Kiffin, you keep the innovation. And the other thing is, this idea that the GM selects the coach and the GM selects the quarterback. I got news for you. Lane Kiffin knows the quarterbacks in the SEC better than any GM. Season ends, write a check, get Kiffin, let Kiffin make sure he likes the GM. I'd have Kiffin pick the quarterback, then have the GM pick everybody else. Remember, folks, I know a lot of these GMs. I think they're really good. I think they're nice guys. They're smart. Half of them like Tua more than Justin Herbert. Half of them. I mean, when Justin Herbert walks into a room, 6'6", good-looking, strapping guy, 4.2 biology major, howitzer for an arm. Tua walks into a room, it's like, are you working accounting? Certain guys look like pro athletes. Half the GMs wanted Tua. In the AFC, where the best teams are like, Baltimore, Kansas City, when Burrow's healthy, Cincinnati, it's going to be New England. Tua? In the AFC? What are we doing? So I think this is the way to do it. Now, Mike McDaniel, after getting blown out, this was not about Baltimore last night. I told you yesterday, they're going to win. They're going to win comfortably. Lamar Jackson's back. They're going to reel off 6 straight wins or thereabouts. We knew they were going to win that game. This is about Miami. GM's out. They're going to keep the coach to the end. And I got nothing against Mike McDaniel. I think he's smart. I'd hire him in a New York minute to be my coordinator. He's not a head coach. Here he is after. Listen.
The bottom line is you have to cross your T's and dot your I's in the National Football League, or you get made pay. So it's a very, very disappointing. These are the things that will constantly occur in the National Football League. You won't like the results.
Well, no presence. Absolutely. Dan Campbell hits you like a strong drink. Mike Vrabel, intimidating. You know, like Sean McVay walks to the podium. He looks and feels like he's 6'8". Harbaugh, presence. I said this about Kiffin. Kiffin can be snarky. He can be a smart aleck. Oh, you offend the donors. You offend the athletic director. Ugh, get out of that world. I love college football. Get out of that space. Just deal with one owner. You know, you got to deal sometime. You know, Miami actually isn't that impulsive. Miami, you know, they gave Mike McDaniel a long runway. I mean, they gave Chris Grier a decade plus to be a GM, and I don't think he's very good. I got nothing against him, but if you have Tua as a quarterback, you have to have a good backup quarterback and a great O-line. They have neither. So a lot of these GMs, you don't major at GM in college. You're a scout. You work your way up. I mean, I first step, GM's out. Second step, keep McDaniel. Third step, get Lane Kiffin. Let him choose the GM. Because these quarterbacks in the SEC, the 8 best quarterbacks going into the draft, 4, Kiffin's either recruited them, faced them, watched film on them. So I was never a big Tua fan. I think he's fine. I thought the Drew Brees comp, come on. You know, that's an insane comp. It's like giving Brady as a comp. All-time guys aren't comps. They're icons, all right? So last night, there's a play at the end of the half, and this sums it up. He basically quits on a play. Because he can't do anything. He has no escapability. He doesn't have a big arm. He has acknowledged he can't see over the line. So at the end of the half, you can roll the tape. He goes back here. You think Josh Allen would have ended the half like this? No, he would have heaved the ball down the field to Mahomes. He surrenders. I mean, and that's because he has to. I mean, that's kind of what it is. He's a small quarterback without a big arm with no escapability. And that's what he does. That play doesn't look like that if Lamar, Josh, or Mahomes are the quarterback. Or Matt Stafford, who doesn't have mobility. So a couple of weeks ago against Cleveland, it was rainy and windy. It wasn't that cold, but it was ugly weather, rainy and windy in Cleveland. And I saw 2 different times. He had 0 touchdowns, 3 picks, 100 passing yards. But what I noticed during the game is he didn't want to get hit. He did not want to get hit. He was letting go of that ball. He just look at that. Get me out of here. It was like a little kid playing with big brothers. I don't have any interest getting hit. And I'm sorry, but that's the kind of weather, wet, rainy Cleveland. That's AFC weather. You got to be a big, tough alpha in the AFC. That's why Joe Flacco ages so well in the AFC. Why? Big, tough, alpha presence. And this season, if you look at Tua's numbers, they have regressed badly. And I think part of it is psychological. He doesn't trust the staff. He doesn't trust the O-line. I wouldn't either. And he didn't want to get hit. So, and it's not a shock. He was from Hawaii. He played at Bama. Now he's in Miami. And he doesn't like the cold weather. So trust your eyes. Listen, Denver showed you can move off a quarterback and have all sorts of dead cap money. The key is get the quarterback right in the first round of the draft like Denver did with Bo Nix, and the dead cap money doesn't have that. I mean, look at Denver's roster right now. They're still paying Russell Wilson. Denver's got a top 4 or 5 roster, and they're still paying Russell Wilson. So, listen, if you look at slightly uncomfortable weather, under 60 degrees, Tua's 4-13. So 59, I used to joke about Brock Purdy. It's overcast. I don't know. Like in the NFL, especially the AFC, big, strong, tough. That's what you need. You're going and playing Baltimore. Now New England's good again. So now I got to go to Foxborough in January with one of Mike Vrabel's alpha teams and physical teams. So now New England's back to being great. Baltimore's great. Buffalo's great. Kansas City's great. And if Burrow stays healthy, Cincinnati's great. I mean, even Denver late in the season. Mile High City. Snow's up there. I was saying earlier, I think the Chicago Bears have been fascinating with Caleb Williams. So when these young quarterbacks come into the NFL, you can see some that are immediately don't work. Jamarcus Russell, when he came into the league, like that doesn't work. Zach Wilson, it's like, I don't think that's going to work. And then there are those that immediately you're like, oh, that works. Like Jaden Daniels last year, Joe Burrow. I mean, I think Cam Newton's first year, you're like, you're gonna win some games with Cam Newton. And then you get into these relationships where it's like Caleb Williams, where you're like, okay, all new coaching staff, second year, something's good. It's hard. Here's where I think Caleb Williams is at. I don't think he is at the place where he can handle a ton of discomfort. I think when he faces the Cowboys defense or this weekend, the Bengals defense, he's got more comfort, an extra beat to throw, an extra beat to make a decision. He can be highly effective. He probably needs another 15 starts to get to the point where he could face the Chiefs defense and be comfortable. Now, some guys never get comfortable. Justin Fields has never gotten comfortable against elite defenses. But Justin Fields will give you these starts against bad defenses. You're like, whoa. But he's never been able to pivot to the quarterback that can do it against great defenses. So I think Caleb is in that you give him the Cowboys or the Bengals. I like the Bears this weekend, and it's going to look different. Last week, Ravens are healthy on the road. You don't get the time, a little more pressure, a little better safety play, and it unravels. Eric Mangini earlier on what he's seen from the Ben Johnson-Caleb Williams relationship.
It's interesting. Last year when they were right before the Washington game or leading up to the Washington game, they were 4-2, and then they had that terrible loss. And Caleb had 3 games in a row where he's below 80 in a quarterback rating. Here we are a year later. They have the terrible loss to the Ravens, and he's in a 3-game stretch of below 80 quarterback rating, a year removed with a totally different head coach, a different team, different situation. So I'm disappointed that that's where we are a year later.
Yeah, I listen. A lot of guys, instantly not going to work, and there's a very small handful of guys immediately that's going to work. The majority of young quarterbacks, it's the other 75%. You see stuff, but is it ever going to sync up? I think officially, Bo Nix works, Jaden Daniels works, Drake May works. I think Caleb Williams and Penix are in the, I need another 10 starts. But the good news for Caleb, he's got Ben Johnson. Michael Penix has a defensive coach. And I think that stuff matters. So as we look at the NFL schedule this weekend, I like the Bears against Dallas. I like the Bears again. I think Caleb will have time, just an extra beat. We showed you yesterday. The quickest release time in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes at 2.6 seconds. The slowest is Caleb at 3.1. It's just a beat. It's just a 1,000. That's it. It's just an extra beat, an extra step for the receiver to get open. So the games I'm really interested to watch. I want to see if J.J. McCarthy plays at Detroit. I want to see what it looks like. Everybody loves Detroit. I'm staying away. Everybody loves Green Bay. I'm staying away. A couple of weeks ago, we had this where the Chargers were going to the Giants and the Bills were playing the Saints, and everybody loaded up on the big favorites. I like small favorites this weekend, and one of the small favorites I like the Niners and I like the Bears, both as slight road favorites.
Okay, big update here from NFL reporters. Bryce Young, his ankle is fine, no injury designation. He will start in Lambeau against the Packers. Now, I haven't shifted over to the line to see if it's moved, but that does something for you. I see you grinning over there, almost like you're giddy to jump on the Bryce Young bandwagon.
Well, also Brock Bowers is now healthy for the Raiders. Keep your eye on the Raiders upsetting the Jags, and keep your eye on the Carolina Panthers making it very uncomfortable for 3.5 quarters against the Packers.
So I don't hate that, except for the fact that I'll talk about it next hour. The last time the Packers had success, remember they win their first 2 games over the Lions and Washington, and everybody crowned them. Oh, they're going to be in the Super Bowl. And then they just started sputtering. They couldn't cover the spread. They're not putting teams away. They don't have that knockout punch. And I wonder, after that big win on Sunday Night Football over Tomlin, are they going to go back to being the old Packers, or did they unlock something? Because in the second half, Colin, they killed Pittsburgh.
I guarantee
I think it was like 28-0 run or something.
If you ask Matt LaFleur privately, I think he's terrified of this game. He knows huge favorite at home. Coaches hate this spot. Yep. He'd rather go to Carolina and play because the players would get more dialed in. This is a tough, keep your eye, Packer Nation. Urban Meyer, 17 years as a college football head coach, 3 natties, SEC, Big Ten, Fox Sports football analyst, is joining us live. Ohio State plays almost, you'd call it like a wounded animal. Penn State football's got all sorts of NFL bodies and players. They're a bit beat up right now. Those are dangerous teams to play. I got to ask you, LSU, you got the governor involved. Yikes. You got Florida. You got Penn State. I thought Brian Kelly was a Midwest personality, and it just never felt like a fit. Of those 3 jobs, and I'm talking from donors, athletic department expectations, LSU, Florida, Penn State, is there one that jumps out to you today as the best job?
I would. They're all 3 blue blood programs. They're all 3 that have national championship expectation. But to answer your question, the one that stands out to me, and you can say I'm somewhat biased, is Florida. I just think that's, Florida and LSU to me are right there. And it's all about recruiting base. The problem with Penn State's got the same problem Notre Dame does. You have to go recruit the world. You can't put a little footprint. LSU, you can fill a team with a short plane ride from Baton Rouge. The Gators, you can certainly fill a roster with a 3-4 hour radius around your school. So I would put one of those 2. It's just the whole dynamics, what's happened with LSU is the reason I have them behind Florida, is I don't really understand what's going on there with the governor. Now there's no AD. And I'll tell you, I had Jeremy Foley, Gene Smith, Chris Hill, and Paul Krebs, and you have got to be like this with that AD. And if you don't have one, and if you're reporting to the governor or the board of supervisors, whatever, to me, that's just, you'd have to really research that one.
I always had a theory on Brian Kelly. I just don't, listen, I think he's a really good coach. I think he went down there, and sometimes it happens in life. When you took jobs from Utah to Bowling Green to Florida to Ohio State, you could have taken another job, but it wouldn't have been authentic because you were kind of worn out from it. You'd done it. You had your mark on college football. I think Brian, and I do not blame him, I think it happens to a lot of men get in their 60s and they go to their family and they're like, listen, we just got offered a boatload of money. We can get a second house now in West Palm Beach. I think I'm going to roll up my sleeves. And I just don't think quite he understood the intensity of LSU. When I don't know, these coaching buyouts, I don't like firing guys in week 6 or 7. What do you make of the buyouts? Are you surprised by it?
I am, but it's all market value. It's something that it really started towards the last half of my career when you saw all these zeros showing up in your contract. And I'd never been a big money guy and fight for this and fight for that. They would offer me a contract. I'd have someone look at it, and I normally just signed it right then because they treated me fairly. But I can see that if you're going to start getting fired after winning 70% of your games, and you see James Franklin was, you got to protect yourself and your family because what you're putting yourself through, and is it worth that kind of money? There's a lot of argument. Maybe it's not, but it is what it is. And I think more than ever now, Colin, when you saw those 3 coaches get fired, Coach Napier, it was a losing record. The other two, 25 years ago, those guys are coaching forever. So I think I heard the governor say that we're not going to do that anymore of Louisiana. It's the market value, man. That's what's happening.
I want to ask you about Lane Kiffin. I do believe coaching in college now with a transfer portal, it's like free agency, and the NIL is like a salary cap, that it does give you some experience in college now that you didn't have 10 years ago. And there's a little NFL feel to it. Lane's also an offensive coach. The NFL is an offensive league. And it's a big year for quarterbacks, and he's seen half of these guys. The draft quarterback prospects, according to Mel Kiper, I got a bunch. I got a Bama guy, a South Carolina guy, Oklahoma guy, Garrett Nussmeier. I got a bunch of guys, SEC guys. Lane's recruited them. Lane's seen them. Lane's coached against them. He's looked at film. What do you think about Lane Kiffin doing the NFL?
Lane Kiffin, we've actually become pretty good friends. We talk a lot and text a lot, and I think he has matured. I think he's one of the top coaches, obviously, in the game. He's got something I'm jealous of. He also enjoys himself. When I was coached, that was a nut job. It was hard for me to get a good night's sleep, and I see him, and I admire that how he's matured. Seems like everything's in order, and obviously he's a hell of an offensive football coach and a hell of a coach. So I think could be successful at every level. Remember, he went to the Raiders as a very young guy.
Yeah.
But let me throw this about the SEC quarterbacks. We talked about this a minute ago, and Todd McShay is a guy that I respect as well as including GMs.
Yeah.
His opinions. Those quarterbacks in the SEC, I'm not sure, and either is Todd, are those guys the first-round guys that you take and say, you're my quarterback, and I'm going to rest my career or not? We're not, I agreed with Todd. He said most of those guys could probably get one more year before they can go to the NFL.
Yeah, I think Mendoza at Indiana and I think Dante Moore feel like first-round picks. I also think late first round, if you're the Rams and have Stafford and don't need a starter today, Lenora Sellers at South Carolina is a guy I could take 25th, sit him for a year, learn from a great pro. That's what I would do. But I think Dante Moore and Mendoza, to me, I'm like, okay, there's some juice there. I don't see a lot of juice with Ty Simpson. I think he's fine. It feels late second. There you go. Here's what I worry about with Ohio State. Ohio State's better, but Penn State's got a lot of guys, and they're a little wounded as a program. And Ohio State kids, they can watch the games and they can go, guys, hey, I'm gonna have 10 catches in this one. Do you worry about Ohio State, the worst kind of teams to play? You're a big favorite, but they got a bunch of talent and would make their season beating you. Does Penn State worry you if you're the Buckeyes?
Of course they do, because the one thing that's not in question is talent. I'm going to do this on Big Noon tomorrow that, Texas has more 5 stars than Ohio State. Penn State has as many 4 or 5 stars. I think it's like a 67 to 65 or something like that. So it's basically the same roster. And then all of a sudden, Penn State was 3 points away from playing a national title. Last year, the majority of that team came back. They were 7 points ahead in overtime against Oregon, and then it fell apart. So the question is not if talent is there. Now, they lost their quarterback. But here's the issue. You get exposed sometimes when things go bad. And Ohio State last year, it went real bad against the Wolverines. What happened? They got exposed, and it got better. I worry a little bit about Penn State. They got exposed when they lost that game, and they fell off the map and lost 3 games. So talent is there. What I would do if I was Ryan Day, I would show them the UCLA film and say, this is the same team that lost to New Mexico by 25 points. So don't start questioning talent that you're going to see across the line of scrimmage from you.
Okay, so I think USC is going to beat Nebraska because I want to ask you a question. I do feel like players feed off a coach, his psychology. And I think Lincoln knows it's one thing to lose. You can go lose to some big dogs. You can go lose at Notre Dame. You can lose at Oregon. You can't at USC in year 4 lose to Nebraska. And that is you better not lose it game. Because I always say, wake up Saturday night at 9:00. If USC has lost to Nebraska, you get phone. Jen Cohen's going to be taking calls. So I tend to think the players will feed off the urgency of Lincoln. Lincoln knows how big this is. You have any feel on that game?
I saw, USC to me is a Team A. I've said this before about a couple teams, Team A and Team B. I witnessed the Team A and I witnessed the Team B. I saw the Team B live and in person against Illinois. That was not a great team. And then I saw them just beat the mess out of the Wolverines, and they looked like they had it all. The line of scrimmage, they had the skill. The quarterback was playing great, played good defense. If Team A shows up, they're better than Nebraska. They're just a better team. Nebraska's a really good team, but USC, if Team A shows up, that's a wrap. If Team B shows up, we got a problem. And I agree with you. You lose your 4th year to Nebraska. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know all that, but that's not good. Obviously not good.
Columbus. If you're in Columbus, I've only been there 3 times. Now, since you're the guy there, are you taking the crew out? Is there a place you go every time? You got a little haunt there in Columbus?
Oh, yeah. We got the Urban Meyer Pine House last night. We had our podcast there, and then we're going to Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse tonight. So you only been there 3 times?
Listen, I only go
Let's
places.
go, man. It's a mecca here of college football.
I only go where I'm invited, Coach. I've only gotten a couple invitations there.
Right. So I'm going to talk to Fox about this.
That's right. All right. Urban Meyer, the great Urban Meyer.
Thanks,
Good
Colin.
seeing you, Coach. All right.
Thanks, brother.